Hi, I'm Lakshmi, audiologist and speech language pathologist. In my practice, I keep coming across many questions asking by patients regarding ENT problems and solutions. So I thought, why not ask these questions directly to a professional and seek good answers? So here I would like to introduce you Dr. Rakesh, ENT surgeon from Pinnacles Hospital, Visakhapatnam, who is well known for his cochlear implant surgeries and endoscopic nose surgeries. So sir, hi.
Hello.
Thank you for coming for this interview.
Welcome anytime. It's my pleasure doing interview with you.
Sir, I would like to ask more about common problems which people come for their ear problems.
For the ear, most often than not, people come to me with complaints of ear block, ear discharge, or decreased hearing. These are three complaints with which they come. There are people who come with just ear pain without any other complaints.
So ear pain and ear discharge are common for children or adults, or how do you differentiate these?
They are very much common in both, but if you look at it, children are the ones who cannot actually tell it's pain. So parents get confused for anything which is related to ear for ear pain.
Okay.
Even if the child per se says keeps on doing like this, they'll come to us telling, doctor, our child has ear pain. So basically when we actually see the child, there will not be anything, it's just a dry ear which could be irritating and resulting in child doing that, and patients perceive it that way, or parents perceive.
So is ear discharge and pain common for children with because they keep something in their ears, or they don't hygienically keep it clean or anything of that sort?
Actually, ear pain and ear discharge go hand in glove, because most often they're not in 90% of the people they complain of ear pain before the actual discharge of the ear starts. And in children, of late we are seeing that it's more so happening with ear discharge or ear pain, because the ear is getting infected.
Okay.
And especially in infants, when I mean they're below 2 years, when the parents are feeding the child, be it mother's milk or the bottled milk, they're making the child flat and feeding the child. And actually the position should be the 45-degree position where the child is held with head high and then fed. And after feeding, the mother should make sure that she puts the child over her shoulder and taps over the back so that he gets out the excessive milk which he drinks. And after that they can make the child lie down.
Okay. So many a times we see mothers trying to clean the ears of the children if they see any wax outside. So do you suggest cleaning at home with any kind of earbuds?
No, actually I don't advocate earbuds for anybody, because ear cleans it by itself. If you look at the anatomy of the ear, I have drawn a line here. The wax secretion is done only till this particular outside part.
Okay.
And the remaining inner 2/3 is usually non-secreting skin. So what happens is, whatever wax is there, because the movements of the ear skin, the wax comes out. So what happens is, by ignorance, people start using earbuds and try to clean the ear, and thereby they push the wax
inside.
And whereas most often they're not, the wax is here. So with a little finger, just you can actually clean it like this with a towel over the little finger.
Okay. So generally you suggest cleaning only the outer wax and do not pierce anything inside with the buds.
Nothing should be put into the ear.
So in case the pain is more and they feel there is some wax inside, there are patients I've seen going to pharmacy and trying to get some ear liquids and then see to that the wax is coming out or oozing out. How much do you support?
I'm 100% against that, because like I told you before, the ear pain can be because of the wax in the ear, as well as because of that wrong feeding habits. What happens is, when the child lies down flat and drinks, as some milk goes into the stomach, some milk goes behind the nose also, and there is this tube called as eustachian tube which connects the ear, nose and throat. Okay. And in children it's usually short, wide and straight. Okay. whereas in adults it's oblique at an angle, narrow and long. So because it's short, wide and straight, the milk
Directly goes into
the ear, and the ear gets in, and the inner ear, which is here, gets affected,
Okay.
and that is why they'll have pain.
So you suggest if the child is having pain, they better see a doctor rather than going to a pharmacy.
Rather than any doctor, I would suggest any ENT doctor.
Okay. Okay. You particularly feel that ENT doctor is the one who is professionally good to take out the wax.
He's not forget professionally good. He's professionally the only person to qualify to even look at the ear, because we see deep inside the ear whether there is wax or whether there is infection behind the eardrum or whether there is infection on the eardrum. Sometimes some people put some oil in the ears as ritual, like they boil the warm up the oil and keep it in the ears, thinking the wax will come out by itself. In return, what happens is most often than not, this happens in winter because the oil goes inside, gets solidified because of cold temperatures, and there the fungus infection starts. So it's only we who can see and differentiate between wax, fungus infection, or the infection of the eardrum or behind the ear.
So all these problems can be solved with medicines and just by taking out the wax and cleaning them.
Yeah, 90% of the times all the problems can be solved, provided the patients come to us for regular follow-up.
And early maybe.
Yeah, early and regular follow-up. Early or late, we can actually give the medication. But most often than not, the patients, the moment they are comfortable, the pain comes down, or the child stops crying, or adult, they feel that the pain is decreased, they don't even come to the hospital again.
So follow-up is important to treat the problem completely.
Yes.
So is there any situation where the child needs to undergo surgery for these kind of problems?
Actually, for wax, rarely do we have to take them to the theatre. But there are some children who are very, very apprehensive, they don't cooperate. So for them, we take them to the theatre only to make sure the anesthesia is given so that he is not panicky or stable, he doesn't move. Otherwise, for removal of wax, no need of taking to the theatre. For the ear discharge, yes, even if the ear discharge doesn't stop after medication for 1 or 2 months and there is perforation of the eardrum, then we have to take them up for surgery.
So in the same section of ear problems, so did you see any adults coming for saying that I have sudden hearing loss, or from this as the age grows I'm not able to hear properly? So what kind of solutions or tests are available to?
See, actually hearing loss per se is 3 types, and it's conductive hearing loss, it's sensorineural hearing loss, and mixed. And conductive hearing loss is usually because of the fluid accumulation behind the eardrum or the hole in the eardrum, or there is one more entity which is usually genetic or hereditary. It is called as otosclerosis. That comes because of the fixation of a bone called stapes. So all these 3 things can be corrected by surgery.
Oh, okay.
And sensorineural hearing loss is usually age-related hearing loss, which comes over a period of time, and it's not genetic, whereas many of the people think it's genetic. It's not genetic, it's mostly age-related, but we do see in young children because of multiple complications, or if the mother is diabetic or hypertensive, or if the child is premature, and all these things, we see decreased sensorineural hearing loss even in young infants and children. And the other problem we are facing, or we are seeing of late, is even the teenagers and the middle age group people are having sensorineural hearing loss. This is because they are more into gaming with headphones or earphones with loud music or loud sounds. Thereby the hearing nerve becomes weak because of constant thing. The nerve gets fatigued, and then the hearing loss starts. And the third type is mixed, which means it has the components of both conductive hearing loss as well as sensorineural hearing loss. This can be corrected either by surgery or by using of a hearing aid. Okay, and then as per your question, you asked about sensorineural hearing, sudden sensorineural hearing loss. Sudden sensorineural hearing loss is not a very common phenomenon which we see. Okay. It does happen, but it's something like a heart attack.
Okay.
A person suddenly gets heart attack. The same way, there are many patients who come to us telling, "Doc, when I was sleeping, I was fine, but the moment I got up, I feel that my hearing has come down." Yeah. That kind of a thing is sudden sensorineural hearing loss. And this sudden sensorineural hearing loss can be treated with medication, and we see an improvement of around 50% in most of the people. Okay. And remaining 50% usually we don't see an improvement, for whom we advise either a hearing aid or a cochlear implant, depending on the amount of hearing loss.
So other than the sudden hearing loss, which you're saying is very rare, can we say that every person should take care of their hearing or listening skills, and the moment you start feeling reduced hearing, you should see a doctor or seek help? Can anybody make out their hearing loss immediately?
Yeah, actually, because you said immediately, I will start right from infants. Even the newborn children can be screened for hearing loss. Okay. We don't follow that much in India, but abroad it's a mandatory thing, and it's called as otoacoustic emissions. This is a just screening test wherein you can do even for hours old child. Forget days, newborn child. And we can keep on doing it till 5-6 months. Okay. And this is because this is just a screening where the child cannot cooperate with you or cannot guide you. And the definitive diagnosis for this would be a thing called BERA, which is brain evoked response audiometry, and this one tells us the degree of hearing loss also.
Almost a percentage.
Yes, percentage of hearing loss. And when we do OAE, and if it comes as pass, that means that the hearing is normal. And when it comes as refer, then usually the child is advised
to follow
up after 3 months, and then after 3 months. And if it comes as refer in both the visits, then we advise them the higher test called as BERA.
So if the child comes as the report comes as normal hearing, no issues, the child can grow very well.
Yes.
If the child has something like permanent, severe to profound, or 60% hearing loss is there, so what do you suggest, or how do we go?
Usually, depending on the percentage of hearing loss, we either advise a hearing aid or a cochlear implant surgery.
Depending on the percentage.
Like for example, a child or an adult has a hearing loss of say 40, 50, 60, 70 decibels. Mm-hmm. They're most likely comfortable with just a hearing aid. Okay. Which is digital hearing aid precisely. Because there is a difference between analog and digital. Digital hearing aids give more clarity of speech. Yeah. And even if at 70 decibel hearing loss, the reciprocation of the patient is not good for a hearing aid, or the clarity of speech is not good, or clarity of hearing is not good, that is the time we usually advise the cochlear implant surgery.
Okay. Did you come across any earliest child who underwent cochlear implant surgery?
Actually, recorded youngest child in the whole world is around 10 months old. And basically cochlear implant is the time of cochlear implant is decided depending on the thickness of the skull bone. Okay. Because an implant, when we operate, has to rest on the skull bone. So the bone should have a minimum amount of thickening. So with the amount of thickening, we can do it.
So more than age, we need to check the thickness of the skull bone, and then we can go ahead with the surgery. And how safe is this surgery, sir, for this young man?
Cochlear implant surgery is as safe as any other surgery, and any surgery comes with an element of risk which everybody has to accept. Other than that, we don't see any difficulty encountering cochlear implant surgery. Okay. Except if at all there are some congenital anomalies in the cochlea. That is where we find a little bit issues. Otherwise, there is not much of an issue.
Thank you.